Hello, food.log 54. Today we're going to make this very popular dish. A lot of you have asked for it. It is a hot and sour soup, which in Chinese will be the sour and hot soup. When you translate from Chinese to English, try to reverse the word ordering. Sometimes it works just like that. And very cool appetizer dish before the real food. You have it a lot at restaurants, I believe. So for this you need some chicken stock. As you can see, I made it this morning. It's actually in the previous video, I think episode 53, where I show you how to cut the chicken and make a broth. So you all know how to make it by now. You need broth, and you need, I think, tofu is important to have. Some greens, I choose like nappa cabbage is important. And this, I would think this is optional. If you can't find it, I definitely wouldn't worry if you don't have it. This is wood ear, which is a kind of a mushroom that grows on trees, and what you see here is a dehydrated version of it. See how dry they are? So what you need to do is you put in warm water and let it rehydrate. And so these are kind of the ingredients, and the condiment is mainly pepper. This is white pepper. You can also use black pepper, but white pepper tends to be stronger because they don't have the husk of the pepper. That's why it's white, and that's why it's much stronger than black pepper. So that's the spicy part, and the sour part is rice vinegar. Make sure you find rice vinegar from a Chinese market, okay? If you use other vinegar, like balsamic, is not gonna work because that's too sweet and made from grape. And you need cornstarch or tapioca starch, so that's a thickening agent to make a soup really thick. Alright, let's start. It's very easy because it's not cooking, right? It's more like assembly, where you're literally putting different ingredients that you already prepared together. So we already made the stock, which I think is the more time-consuming and demanding aspect. So now everything is rather easy. So we'll start by hydrating some of this ear. Another translation for these mushrooms is actually juice ear. I don't know why they're called juice ear. It will make no sense because very little Jewish people actually live in China. But sometimes they translate it to juice ears, which I found a little bit offensive for, I guess in China nobody knows what they're talking about, right? So you have a little bit of this. So we're only going to make a very small batch. I've made the mistake before of making too much of the soup, and it's being the flavor is so strong, you ended up not being able to finish it. It's really meant to be an appetizer, so treat it as an appetizer dish. So don't go crazy and make like a huge batch. Let's see, 3 leaves. Go with these many ears. Let's see. How about do 4? So everything is a little bit subdued and controlled here. I like to cut my cabbage. I like to cut the bottom off because they tend to have some dirt on it that if you wash it, you might not catch it. Other than that, the cabbage is very clean. I just make these horizontal cuts. I don't like the fibers in the cabbage. See this fiber that goes in this direction, so I want to cut through them so I don't have to chew as much. So let's look at this tofu. So I cut them in the box a lot. So what you do is you cut a small hole, and you can drain some fluid. So this one doesn't really have much fluid, which is interesting. They usually have a lot of fluid inside. So let's see. We'll probably only use, I think, 1/3 to 1/2 of this. Let's see. I like to cut my tofu inside the container. That's just me. And for this, you can cut them kind of smallish. What I'm doing is making a grid. So these tofu will come out kind of long and skinny. Okay. Alright, that's it. That's all the prep work. So we have some ear. So I think once they be a little bit more dehydrated, well, rehydrated rather, we can cut them. Or rather, let me just cut them now. Because they feel pretty soft already. I only used the small ears, so definitely got back in their hydrated form. So once you rehydrate them, it's hard to store them. That's why they store them in a dehydrated form. Once they become hydrated, you kind of need to use all of it, otherwise they spoil rather quickly. Unless you can find some way to re-dehydrate them. I don't know how to do it. Put it in the sun or... So yeah, just cut them into them, just kind of small pieces, right? Like this, about the same size as your cabbage. Okay. And that's it. Let's go to the assembly. So I have this small pot on high. I'm going to pour this stock. So I think that's good. So I used about half. And I haven't really boiled the chicken that much yet, so this stock is still pretty clear. What's most important with this dish is to have a stock, and if you don't have a stock, you can add egg drops. Just beat an egg and kind of stir them inside. I would have done it, but I feel with a stock already so rich, the whole thing might just be an overkill of too much flavor. So I wouldn't do the egg for now. But yeah, if you don't have a stock and just have plain water, you should definitely try to beat an egg inside. See what the problem is? I put too much stuff inside again. It really should be more sparse than this. This is way too dense. Actually, yeah, maybe okay. Maybe okay. So just remind ourselves that this is a soup, okay, not a stew. So let's pour the tofu. Boop. You see how the tofu worked out? I just cut them inside, and they come out kind of almost all separated. So this is looking really good now. It's definitely a rich man version of a soup, given we have good chicken stock and so many ingredients inside. I think in restaurant it's mostly just water. Let this boil. And what can we do? We can chop some green onion. So the traditional recipe asks for cilantro, and when I went to the market yesterday to look for cilantro, they ran out of cilantro, which is rare because cilantro is supposed to be very common, but they somehow uncharacteristically ran out. So I can only use green onion. But if you make this dish, it would be nice to have cilantro. I don't think it's necessary, but it really adds a lot of cool colors and kind of cool taste to the soup. So I think it's definitely something to keep in mind. So this dish is almost vegetarian, right? We only use the chicken stock. So if you actually use the vegetable stock, it will be entirely vegetarian. And if you can eat chicken, you can use chicken stock. If you don't like eating chicken, but you can eat egg, there's all these rules that vegetarians apparently have to follow. You can use egg drops and vegetable stock if you eat egg and vegetable. If you don't eat vegetable, if you don't eat egg even, you can use the vegetable stock. Although I would have to make a video on how to make a vegetable stock. I need some practice with that. Right, it's almost time to mix the starch, so let me show you. So the point of the starch is to make the soup thick. Okay. So what you want to do, see this is some starch and pour. I don't want to pour too much, but have a good amount inside. Exactly how much, it kind of depends on your soup and how thick you want it. I usually use this much for however much soup I'm making just now. And what you want is you want to put in some cold water. See, about 1 part powder to 2 part water kind of a thing. And make sure it's cold water, okay? It will definitely congeal if you use hot water. That's the whole point of using the starch, is to make it congeal into kind of a jello-like substance in the pot. And if you use hot water, it will congeal in your mixing container, and that will be counterproductive. Okay, so once they're like kind of like a milk, then you're done. Okay, so let's give you this view. It's boiling. Looks pretty good. Let's see. So remember, my chicken stock actually is bland. When you make chicken stock, or any stock for that matter, you do not add salt, because the salt will make the meat tighten up, and the flavor doesn't come out if you add salt. They make it scrunchy. And so you add salt in the end. Let's add a good amount of salt. These salts are not very salty, that's why I'm adding a whole bunch. Depends, right? When people say 1 tablespoon or 1 teaspoon of salt, it never make any sense, alright? Don't follow instruction like that, because salts are so different. Some salts are so salty, some are not salty at all. So the best measurement for saltiness is taste. See, that's good. A little bit on the salty side, but we're going to add more fluid inside, so we're okay. So now let's handle the white pepper. Let's add a whole bunch. That will account for the spiciness. Add a lot, okay? Don't be moderate. Let's mix them up. Again, mix, taste. Might need more, but I'm running out of white pepper, so let's use black pepper, which I haven't started using. I have a lot of this stuff. This is definitely a dish made with excess, not of moderation. Just put a whole bunch of everything inside. You'll be fine. Woo! Alright, so now let's try. Oh, alright, the spicy is there, and I think we're done. So pour vinegar in the end, because vinegar is volatile, so the sourness will actually evaporate if you do it too soon. Let's do the starch now. Now what the starch will do, it'll make the soup more thick, as you can see. I don't like my soup too thick, so this is not a lot of starch. If you add too much starch, what this soup would turn out, it would be like a nose booger. That's kind of actually disgusting. And let's do some green onion. Let's do the vinegar. Again, the rule with vinegar is add however much you think it's good. I'm going to add a lot. Okay. And again, vinegar comes in all kinds of sourness, so it's no point trying to quantify it too much. But a rough, imagine you're pouring a glass of wine and you're pouring half a glass, something like that much. It's good for a start, and then after that you just have to taste. Wow! Alright, I think it's a success. Alright, so now we'll just put it into a bowl. So incidentally, this is kind of like a breakfast for me, because I haven't had breakfast. Although why the hell would I drink something like this for breakfast? I guess it doesn't make any sense. Okay. Well, just some fancy dandy green stuff on top to give it some color. Not necessary. That's it. Alright, let's take a look. Woo. That's it. Hot and sour soup. So in retrospect, it would be nicer to have some egg drop. In retrospect, it would be more authentic to have cilantro. But the essentials are in there, which is white pepper, vinegar, right here, tofu, and some nappa cabbage already in the fridge, and cornstarch. Alright, make sure you have them. That's it. Subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't. Episode 54. I've been doing lots of videos lately, so it would be nice to subscribe now to get cool content. I'm making some steamed buns next time. Hopefully. It'll be great. Alright, yeah, subscribe. See you next time.